At 70, I thought I understood love, its warmth, its patience, its scars. For 50 years, I shared a home, a name, and a lifetime of memories with Richard Hale, the man everyone believed was my perfect match. We built our world together, 2 children, 1 promise, and 1,000 moments that felt unbreakable. When he died, I buried him with tears of gratitude, believing our story had ended in peace. But peace, I've learned, is delicate, and truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. It began as a simple gift from my granddaughter, Claire, a DNA ancestry kit, just for fun. "Let's see where we come from, Grandma," she'd laughed. I never imagined that little test would unearth a lifetime of buried lies. When the results arrived, my hands shook before I even clicked view. And when I did, my entire world tilted. The man I loved, the children I raised, the family I thought was mine, all of it suddenly felt like someone else's story. What the DNA revealed broke everything I believed about my family. To our 2, 3, 4, 7 new subscribers, welcome. And if you're not yet part of this storytelling family, now's the time to join, before I reveal what the DNA really said. People used to say Richard and I were the kind of couple that made marriage look easy. We met in the summer of '72, he was a young carpenter with kind eyes and a crooked smile that never failed to melt my worries. I was 20, shy, and certain I'd stumbled into a love meant to last forever. And for the most part, it did. Our home grew in the quiet rhythm of years gone by, the laughter of children echoing through the hallways, Sunday dinners that turned into family traditions, and late-night talks over cups of tea. We didn't have much, but we had each other. That was enough. When Richard got sick in his 60s, I stayed by his side every day. I held his hand through the pain, whispered prayers at his bedside, and promised him he'd never be forgotten. When he passed, I told myself I'd been lucky to have had such a steady love, a man who never let life's storms pull us apart. But even as I said goodbye, there were shadows I ignored, phone calls he'd end abruptly, business trips that lasted longer than expected, and the way his eyes sometimes looked distant. I'd tell myself I was imagining things, that after 50 years, you learn to overlook the small stuff. After all, trust is what keeps a marriage whole. Or so I thought. Because months later, as I sat sorting through his old belongings, a stack of photographs, faded letters, and one sealed envelope marked Private, RH, I felt something shift inside me. The handwriting was his. The seal, unbroken. And for the first time in my life, I hesitated to know the truth. If I had known what waited inside that envelope, I might have let it stay sealed forever. A few months after Richard's passing, my granddaughter Claire came to visit, her laughter brightening the quiet corners of my house. She handed me a small box wrapped in silver paper. "It's a DNA kit, Grandma," she said with a grin. "Just for fun, let's see where we come from." I smiled, amused by her excitement. I'd never been curious about ancestry. My roots were here, in this town, this family, this home Richard and I built. But her joy was contagious. So I swabbed, sealed, and mailed it off, forgetting all about it. Weeks later, an email blinked across my screen, "Your results are ready." I clicked, expecting some distant Scottish cousin or a new recipe from my heritage. Instead, I saw a message I didn't understand: "No genetic match found with your eldest child." My heart thudded. Surely, it was an error. I refreshed the page, again and again, but the result never changed. Before I tell you what I did next, if you believe some truths can't stay buried forever, hit subscribe. Because what came after this changed everything. The next click I made revealed a secret 50 years in the making. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, those words flashed behind my eyelids: "No genetic match found." By morning, my hands were trembling as I brewed my coffee. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I'd sent the wrong sample. I told myself I'd call the company first thing Monday. But before I could, another email came through, a notification about a new DNA connection. The name stopped me cold: Eleanor Pierce. It said potential maternal match. Maternal. That one word made my chest tighten. How could a stranger share my DNA as if she were my mother, or worse, my child? I clicked Eleanor's profile. Her face stared back at me, older, kind, with gray curls and the same blue-green eyes Richard used to have. A chill ran down my spine. I searched through old photo albums, flipping past wedding pictures, birthdays, family trips. Then, tucked between the pages, I found a photograph I'd never seen before, Richard standing beside a woman I didn't recognize. The same woman. The same eyes. Eleanor. She was holding a baby. Our baby. My throat went dry. The date scribbled on the back read May 1973. Our wedding was in June. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the photo, hearing Richard's voice echo in my memory. Some things, Maggie, are better left in the past. Now I understood what he meant. I picked up the phone, dialed the number listed on Eleanor's DNA profile, and waited as it rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a soft voice answered, "Hello? This is Eleanor." I froze. And in that moment, hearing her voice, I knew my husband's secret hadn't died with him. When I met Eleanor at the Riverside Cafe, I didn't recognize her at first. She stood near the window, hands wrapped around a cup of tea gone cold. Her silver hair caught the afternoon light, and when she looked up, my heart clenched, because behind her glasses were Richard's eyes. She smiled faintly, a mix of nerves and sadness. "Margaret Hale," she said softly, "you deserve to know the truth." I sat down across from her, clutching my purse like it might hold me together. "You said you knew Richard," I began, my voice unsteady. "How?" Eleanor exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. "I knew him long before you married. We were young and careless. When I found out I was pregnant, he'd already chosen you. He wanted to do right by you, so he promised to support me quietly." She paused, eyes glassy. But things didn't stay quiet. I stared at her, waiting, every heartbeat drumming against my ribs. "When your baby was born," she whispered, "Richard was at the hospital too. You were very sick, Margaret, you'd lost so much blood. The doctors said you slipped into a coma after the delivery." I felt my breath catch. I remember waking up and being told he was in an incubator. I never even saw him until days later. Eleanor nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "That's because your child didn't survive. Richard told me the truth later, that he couldn't bear to let you wake up to that pain. He came to me, begging. I had just given birth. My family wanted my baby sent away in secret. Richard, he took him. Said he'd raise him as his own, as yours." The cafe faded around me. All I could hear was the ringing in my ears and the echo of a nurse's voice from decades ago. "Rest now, Mrs. Hale, your baby's doing fine." I shook my head slowly. "No." I felt him move. I heard his cry. Eleanor reached across the table, her fingers trembling. "You heard my son, Margaret. And you loved him as your own. That's what matters." Tears blurred my vision. All these years, I lived a lie. Eleanor's voice cracked. "No. You lived a love he was too afraid to explain." I stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. "He let me bury the truth with him." "Please," she whispered. "He meant no harm. He wanted you both to live, to be happy." But as I walked out into the chill air, my heart ached with betrayal. The truth wasn't merciful. It was heavy, suffocating, final. As I walked away from that cafe, I realized forgiveness wasn't about him anymore. It was about whether my heart could survive knowing the truth. If you've ever carried a truth that shattered your peace, take a moment with me right here. These stories remind us that even the strongest hearts can break, and still keep beating. Before we continue, I want to thank the thousands who've joined our storytelling family this month. Your comments, your memories, your empathy, they mean more than you know. And if you're new here, don't just watch from the sidelines. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay with us as we walk through the moments that test what love and forgiveness really mean. Because what comes next isn't about secrets anymore. It's about healing. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every breath felt heavy, every memory sharp. I sat by the window, watching the moonlight spill across the floor, thinking about the 50 years I'd spent believing in a man who built his love on silence. Grief changes shape when truth enters it. It doesn't fade, it deepens. I drove to the cemetery at dawn. The air was cool and still, dew clinging to the grass. Richard's name was etched in stone, simple and steady, like the man I thought I knew. I knelt beside the headstone, tracing each letter with my trembling fingers. "I would have forgiven you," I whispered. "If only you'd trusted me enough to tell me." Tears came quietly, not from anger but from release. For the first time, I didn't feel betrayed, I just felt tired. Behind me, the morning light touched the trees, and for a moment, it felt like he was there, not as a husband who lied, but as the flawed man who tried to spare me a pain he didn't understand. I placed a single white rose on the grave. "You took away my truth," I said softly, "but you gave me a son." Maybe that's love in its most broken form. And as I walked back to my car, I realized healing isn't about forgetting what was lost, it's about learning to live with what remains. The weeks that followed felt quieter, not empty, just still. The kind of silence that asks you to listen to your own heart. Michael came to visit one afternoon. He didn't say much at first. Just stood by the doorway, watching me fold his father's old sweaters into a box marked "Donate." His eyes, Richard's eyes, softened when he finally spoke. "Mom," he said quietly, "I know about the DNA test." I froze, but he stepped closer, taking my hands in his. "It doesn't change who you are to me. You're my mother. Always have been." The tears I'd held back for weeks finally broke free. I held him tight, my heart aching and healing all at once. "I never wanted you to be part of this pain," I whispered. He smiled faintly. "You didn't give me pain, Mom. You gave me a life." In that moment, the weight of 50 years lifted. The lies still existed, but they no longer owned me. Love did. Imperfect, fragile, human love. That night, I placed Richard's wedding ring beside the letter he left behind and whispered into the quiet. Maybe truth doesn't destroy love, it purifies it. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever loved, lost, or forgiven, don't leave just yet. Subscribe, and join this growing family of hearts that believe it's never too late to heal. Because here, every story reminds us that even broken love still leaves light behind.